Welcome to the Man Cave Podcast with Dan Casper.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of the Man Cave Podcast, brought to you by Hy-Vee and Toyson Ford, and shout out to Resonance Branding Company, the official swag provider for the podcast. Check out our swag cave by going to the podcast description, getting that link. It's at the bottom of the podcast description there. You can check out all the products done by Resonance Branding Company. Hey, big thanks for tuning in to this episode of the podcast. We're going to hit up a few different topics here. I want to talk a little bit about the Brewers youngsters who have really stepped up to the plate, pun intended, for this team so far, the first-place Brewers. I want to talk a little bit about UW Green Bay's hiring of Gottlieb. The Timberwolves, the run that they're on, they're now in the Western Conference Finals, taking down the defending champion Denver Nuggets in Game 7. And then I realized I didn't really talk a little bit about the NFL schedule release. So first off, let's talk a little bit about the Brewers and their youngsters really stepping up. So we know the Brewers and William Contreras, let's face it, I think William Contreras has really led the Brewers this year. The fact that, the numbers, offensive numbers that he's putting up is ridiculous. I think something that's getting overlooked for his play is what he is doing behind the dish defensively, but working with all these different pitchers. Let's face it, too. There is no Corbin Burns. There is no Brandon Woodruff. There is no Devin Williams. There is no Wade Miley. Okay? Freddie Peralta's there, but then it's a bunch of other guys who have had to step up, and some youngsters. Robert Gasser the last couple of games. Hudson. Different guys. So the fact that he has been able to really help manage this pitching staff and calling some good games, I think has been a little bit overlooked from William Contreras' perspective from maybe the national or some media or from outsiders out there too. So no doubt about it. To me, William Contreras is the MVP, not only of the Brewers, but of the National League in the first quarter of the season. That needs to be recognized a little bit more. I know Ohtani's the big name, but come on, he's on the Dodgers. Look at the surrounding talent and the help that he has over there, too. So, to me, my money, Contreras, MVP, first quarter of the season. We've talked a lot about him. I want to talk a little bit more about some of the other youngsters who have really stepped up and have really been impressing as of late. I mentioned Robert Gasser out there. 2 games in, 2-0. He's off to a fantastic start. I want to see a couple more games with him, though, too. The 2 guys I really want to focus on, Bryce Terang and Joey Ortiz. So both of these guys. Now, we got to see Bryce Terang last year. Joey Ortiz this year, part of the Corbin Burns package. Okay. Bryce Terang last year. Let's start off with Bryce Terang. Last year, makes the opening day roster. And at one point, he was thought, okay, maybe he's the future starting shortstop for this team. Second base. I think now he's kind of solidified as that second baseman. But last year, too, remember, it was the banning of the shift. So, you really had to prioritize, your second baseman, a guy that could cover a lot of ground, a lot of range, great defensively. Terang, we saw that last year. To me, should have got more attention for Gold Glove. But Gold Glove's a popularity award like a lot of awards out there. And even though it's a defensive award, I think, with his offensive struggles, that kind of led into maybe him not getting more recognition for a Gold Glove. But we saw his defense on display last year. There was no denying he was a great defensive player. But his offense stunk. It was awful last year. Okay? It was awful. He got sent back down, called back up. It just, for whatever reason, the guy wasn't comfortable at the plate. This year, he looks more confident. He looks more comfortable. He's adjusted some things. He's got a little bit of a shorter swing here. And all this guy does now is get on base and then steal bases. It wasn't that long ago. Pat Murphy moved him up to the leadoff hitter. He was hitting towards the bottom of the lineup there. Now he moves up to the leadoff, and he just seems like the perfect leadoff hitter. Okay, he's second in the majors at this point in time in steals. Ellie De La Cruz is going to lead the league, okay? They're already talking about the chase to 100 for this year. He's got 30. Bryce Terang's got 18, and Bryce Terang's second in the majors in steals. Okay? But Bryce Terang right now, for what he is doing, still great defender, great defensive player. But the strides that he has made from the offensive side is remarkable. This year, okay, we're going to compare to what he's doing this year to last year. And I know game-wise, last year he played in 137. This year is just 43. But just to put it in perspective from some offensive numbers, what he is doing right now, okay? RBIs last year, he had 34. He's already got 17 this year. He's like almost halfway there, okay? So, I mean, come on now. This is. I mean, he is halfway there, right? Math and me, not hard. Or it is hard. So, I mean, he's already got more doubles this year than he did last year. He's got 12 doubles this year. He had 9 last year. So, he's got 2 home runs. Not a home run guy. He had 6 last year. But these are the numbers I want to throw out to you, okay? Last year, he hit for 218. This year, right now, he's 314. Last year, his on-base percentage was 285. Right now, it's 369. Last year, his slug-in was 300. Right now, it's 431. Last year's OPS was 585. Now it's 800. This is a remarkable turnaround. It's a complete 180 of what he's doing on the offensive side of things here. And now he has developed into a perfect leadoff hitter, and William Contreras is the perfect two-hitter. I mean, that tandem, and I'm not even going to mention Yelich and the way he's hitting at that 3 spot right now. But it's to the point where it's like if Terang gets on, you're expecting him to take a base, steal a base, put himself in the scoring position, and you feel like Contreras is going to be able to hit him in, and you're going to get 1 run between those two, at least. That's what it feels like. At least that's what it feels like for me as a Brewers fan right now. But what Terang is doing now, we know about his defense, and now you're adding in what he's doing at the top of the order here offensively is remarkable. It's fantastic. And then the other youngster, and it could be as soon as next year, these might be your 2 middle infielders. Joey Ortiz. So he gets acquired as part of the Corbin Burns package, him and DL Hall. Okay? Ortiz, what was he known for? Defense, flashing the leather. He's probably going to be the future starting shortstop for the Brewers. Offense, little suspect, didn't know. Had to improve it. Began the season a little slow. And I do wonder if it wasn't for the injury of Garrett Mitchell, because Sal Frelick was getting a ton of time at third. If it wasn't for the injury of Garrett Mitchell, would Joey Ortiz make the ball club on opening day? I don't know. But regardless, started off a little slow offensively. We saw him flashing the leather. But now the guy has really stepped it up as of late from the offensive side of things. He's got a little bit more pop than Bryce Terang. Joey Ortiz does. He's got a little bit more pop. At least that's what he's showing off this year. He's a smooth defender. He can play every spot in the infield, third, short, second. He's got 5 home runs so far this year. He's hitting .292, an OPS of a .925, and an on-base of a .387. So we've got 2. And I know Ortiz is third right now. But 2 A-plus defenders who are now becoming really good offensive players. These youngsters for this Brewers team, I mean, Ortiz is 25, Terang's 24, Contreras is 26. Didn't even mention Jackson Chourio, who's playing a little bit better as of late here. Sky's the limit for him. They've got some really good young position players, talented position players that could be some of the better players at their position in this league. Might be a bold take, might be a hot take here, but if you're a Brewers fan, how are you not freaking pumped about this right now with these guys in their 20s? I know it's easy for me to say this as just a fan. Matt Arnold, Mark Anasio, give Contreras a new deal right now before that price keeps getting higher. Keep him around for a little bit, and I'd seriously consider looking at locking up Bryce Terang and Joey Ortiz, giving them those Freddie Peralta, Aaron Ashby type of deals. 6, 7, 8-year deals, and you're hoping when you're a couple years into it, halfway into it, you're getting a bargain for those guys. Is it risky to do that for a lot of guys? Yes, it is. I don't think it is for Contreras, and I think I'm willing to take that risk with Ortiz and Terang. Look at these guys in their mid-20s, and then Chourio, who's under 20. You already got them locked up. I think if you're a Brewers fan, you got to be excited for some of these youngsters and what we're seeing right now. I think the future is going to be good too. Present's good, but I think this is going to be sustainable for the next few years here. All right, I had to give some love to some of the youngsters out there, okay? I had to. So, all right. Next up, I want to talk a little bit about Doug Gottlieb, okay? I want to talk a little bit about Doug Gottlieb here. So, by now you know the story. He's a national radio host. You hear him on Sports Talk 105.1 and 790 AM, but now he's the new UW Green Bay men's basketball coach, Division I program. So when I first heard about it, yeah, I was like, the first words out of my mouth were like, a what? Really? Wow. Those type of words. I think it actually was wow, to quote Owen Wilson. But I get it. I still question it. I get it in a sense of, okay, it's a name hire. Now, I do kind of question, is there, how many, of like high school basketball players, younger 16, 17, 18-year-olds, do they know Doug Gottlieb? I know he's a national sports radio host, but, do they know who Doug Gottlieb is? Or does that not really resonate with them? Do they even care that he has a national radio host? Is that a draw for 16, 17, 8-year-olds? I don't know if it is. Maybe it is for some, but I don't think it is for the majority. But it's a draw now. It provides this past week there's been a spotlight on UW Green Bay from a national media sense, from the nation. Okay? And so maybe that's where the attention, that's where the Green Bay is getting the attention at right now. And maybe that's where it's going to draw in more donors, more NIL money from that sense. And then more NIL money is what's going to happen with the recruiting game. And then getting in talented players that way. I don't think Doug Gottlieb is going to draw in recruits just based off his name. I think Doug Gottlieb is going to draw in donors and sponsors to help with the NIL fund. And then that's what's going to get players to come to UW Green Bay. Ideally, I think that's what their hope is. I think that's what they hope their plan is going to be. From a coaching standpoint, we don't know how it's going to go. We haven't seen him. He hasn't been on a bench. He's done some AAU stuff, but we haven't, the majority of us have not seen him as a coach. And it's not to say it can't be done. We've seen, guys on TV go in and step in to be a pro coach and have success doing it. Some have it. Remains to be seen here. The biggest question is how is it going to work with his radio show? Okay. That's the biggest question mark. Can it be done? We'll see. If I'm a recruit, if I'm a player, that honestly would be a question I would have for him. I'd be straight up. So, Coach, will you be unavailable? Or you tell me right now. A lot of other coaches say, hey, I'm available 24/7. Get a hold of me anytime. So is Coach Gottlieb going to be, I'm available 24/7 except afternoons for a couple hours? They're going to have a plan. They're going to have a game plan in place. It remains to be seen whether it's going to work or not. Now, I don't know how much the radio show itself, I think that's, it's going to be a part of the plan to hopefully draw money into the NIL fund. That it's going to be a platform for that. It's going to be a platform to expose UW Green Bay more sponsors for NIL. It makes sense to hire for that. From a basketball standpoint, the guy knows basketball. Can he coach it? We'll see. And I know he mentioned in his presser that, he alluded to that the contract, he put in there so it makes it hard for him to leave. And is essentially saying that it's not going to be a short-term thing. I call BS on that. Because I think if Green Bay goes out there and they win a bunch of games and it turns out he's doing a fantastic job as a coach, you mean to tell me, because a few years ago there was a rumor out there, a report out there, he wanted the Oklahoma State job. You mean to tell me if OK State comes calling or a big-time program comes calling that Doug Gottlieb isn't going to want to be interested in that or isn't going to want to do that? Nah. I call that BS. Anytime a player, anytime a coach, tries to reassure people that it's a long-term sort of thing, no. Don't ever take anybody's word for it. Just don't. How many times have we seen that not be the case? Maybe it will. I mean, his dad coached at UW Milwaukee for a few years. Maybe it will. Maybe it won't. I'm not taking it to the bank, though. I'm not investing in that. I'm just saying. Not to be a Debbie Downer or anything like that, but I'm just saying. The thing is, I may have questions about this. There might be a little bit of unknown about this. But ultimately, I hope it still works out. Because if it works out, that means UW Green Bay is succeeding. And if UW Green Bay succeeds, that's going to make the other programs in this state do better. That's going to make the Badgers and Greg Gard do better. That's going to make Shaka Smart and Marquette do better. That's going to make UW Milwaukee do better. If Doug Gottlieb is having success in the state of Wisconsin at college basketball, that's got to up the level for the other teams here too. So I want him to have success. I want the program to have success because it's a Wisconsin program, but also because it should up the level of everybody else within the state and expose the state a little bit more, hopefully in a positive light. So again, while I may have some question marks surrounding it, I hope it works. I hope it works. All right, let's take a really quick break here. A couple words from our sponsors, Hy-Vee and Toyson Ford. And then I want to talk a little bit about the T-Wolves and then wrap it up with the NFL schedule release. Sweet, sweet summertime is here, Chippewa Valley, and it's time to load up on snacks and meals for the summer. Whether you're stocking up for the kids this summer, preparing for a cookout, or a long road trip, Hy-Vee in Eau Claire is your home for all of your summer food needs. From high-quality deli selections, a wide variety in the meat department, to the fantastic bakery and wine and spirits department, Hy-Vee has something for everyone to enjoy this summer. And don't forget to check out their team shop in case you're tailgating at a ball game this summer. Hy-Vee in Eau Claire, your summertime headquarters in the Chippewa Valley. We're getting set for another busy travel season, vacations, taking our kids to all their games and activities, and you need a proper vehicle to get you to where you're going, and safely. That's where Toyson Ford can help you. Toyson Ford will go the extra mile to provide you with compelling options for new and used car shopping. They will gladly work with you on financing no matter what your budget may be. They're committed to giving drivers across the Chippewa Valley the best in customer service. Check them out for yourself. Visit Toyson Ford in Chippewa Falls today and check out their website, toysonford.net. All right, we are back with the second half of this episode of the Man Cave podcast, and shout out to the Timberwolves. They're my today's tip of the cap. All right, I got to give a shout out to the T-Wolves. Tip of the cap to you. Now I'm going to do this on the radio program. Okay, where I'm starting this where I end every program with a tip of the cap to somebody, something, team, player, whatever. And my tip of the cap is going to go to the Timberwolves because first of all, this playoff run, they sweep the Phoenix Suns, okay? So, a Suns team that was the 6th seed, Timberwolves were the 3, but the Timberwolves were in a fight all season long for the top seed in the Western Conference. But they get the 3, and then they get the Suns, where a lot of us, including myself, thought, okay, Timberwolves are going to lose this because you got KD, you got Bradley Beal, Devin Booker with the Suns. It's just not going to work out. What do the Timberwolves do? Ant-Man and the Timberwolves sweep them. Then they get the Denver Nuggets, the defending champions. What do? They start off the series going to Denver, first 2 games beating them, go up 2-0. Then Denver comes back and beats them 2 games in Minnesota. And then I proclaimed that whoever wins Game 5 is going to win the series. That was Denver. To which I said, it's done. It's over with. Minnesota comes back Game 6, absolutely beats Denver down. I mean, puts a butt whooping like no other on them. All right, Game 7 in Denver. No, Denver still got this. First half, it looked like Denver got it. And then at one point, Denver was winning by 20 points. This Timberwolves team, though, comes out in the second half, shuts it down, and ends up winning Game 7 in Denver. I mean, if that's not a tip of the cap worthy nod, I don't know what is. Anthony Edwards, obviously, this is the playoffs. That is like his coming out party. I mean, my 6-year-old, soon-to-be 7-year-old, who is a diehard Bucks fan, but he is now an Anthony Edwards fan. That's the thing with the NBA. I think it's teams, but it's such an individual sport that, so many fans are fans of individual players, even though if they're not on your favorite team. But this team, I mean, I know, you got like Karl Anthony Towns is a 9-year guy. Rudy Gobert has been in the league for a little bit. Mike Conley is a veteran guy. They got a mixture of some nice veterans with some younger guys like Anthony Edwards. They're just going out and balling out. Like, I feel like they don't know any better. Like, they're just like, all right, we're going to go out and we're going to ball out. People aren't giving us a lot of credit, a lot of respect. We're just going to go out and do our thing. And they're doing it. And it's led by Anthony Edwards. But they got such a nice mixture. I mean, Conley seems like he's been around forever. Remember, he was drafted in the same draft with his teammate Greg Oden, if that puts it in perspective. But that was a fantastic run. And they proved me wrong. They proved a lot of people wrong. Now they're going up against Dallas. I'll tell you right now, this is the first time I'm going to pick the Timberwolves to win this series. So that might be the kiss of death. So I'm sorry, Timberwolves fans. But when I look at these playoffs for the Eastern Conference Finals and the Western Conference Finals, it's kind of intriguing for both these series because with the Timberwolves going up against Dallas, okay, Kyrie's won a championship. He's been around, for a little bit, ups and downs and such. Kyrie and Luka, and then I would say, Kat and Anthony Edwards. I'm intrigued to see how these two teams match up. I think that's going to be a good battle. I could see that series going 7. I really could see that series going 7. You got some intrigue there. May not be the top teams like that, the star power teams in the West, but you have star power in it. Anthony Edwards and Luka. 2 younger star players in this league in the Western Conference Finals. May not be team star power like a Lakers or anything like that. But, again, to me, the NBA is such an individual sport, even though it's a team sport. You got 2 young star powers in there. And then on the Eastern Conference, the Celtics, everybody expected them to be there. Tatum, Brown, Porzingis, who's going to miss the first couple games, Drew Holiday over there, going up against this younger Indiana team that's like, what are you doing? Highest scoring team in the league. Tyrese Halliburton making a name for himself. You got Halliburton. Boston's an iconic team, star team, but you got Tatum as a star power over there too. So it's Tyrese and Tatum over there. Not to discredit Pascal Siakam for Indiana or anything like that, but to me, what's really going to be intriguing for this series is Drew Holiday, who's known for his defense. He's got a tough task going up against Tyrese Halliburton and this Pacers team that wants to run in transition. Run. Now, if there's a weakness on Boston is that they take a lot of threes at times. Sometimes they miss quite a bit of threes. Indiana wants to get out in transition. But the thing is, if you miss a 3, I think that kind of neutralizes that transition from Indiana. It's not like if you go up to the rim and you miss a little bunny hook, Indiana gets that rebound, and then they get out in transition. If you're going to miss a shot, you'd rather miss a 3. It's a little bit easier to get back in your sets on defense. But I think one of the big key matchups is going to be Holiday versus Halliburton. The one benefit for Holiday in this matchup, maybe compared to his years with Milwaukee, he doesn't have to be an offensive threat for Boston. He can focus a lot of his energy on defense. Boston still has Tatum. They got Brown. They got other scorers on this team. So if I'm Boston, I'd be like, Drew, just focus on the defense. Just try to slow down Tyrese Halliburton. Try to frustrate him. Try to get into his grill and try to annoy him a little bit. All right? Try to do that. All right, before I get to my NFL schedule release, the weekend hangover. So, again, this is something I do on the radio show that I'm going to try to bring to the podcast here. Weekend hangovers, kind of like your highs and lows from the weekend, studs and duds, best and worst, stuff like that. So my highs from the weekend, I try to narrow it down to just one, but maybe sometimes it's a couple. So in the ratio, I actually did a couple, but I'm going to narrow it down to just one apiece here for the podcast. So weekend hangovers, the highlight. Xander Schauffele, the PGA Championship, the ending was actually really good, entertaining, dramatic. Bryson at the end there. I mean, the putt by Xander Schauffele at the end. The PGA Championship is the major championship of golf that's the 4th most popular. Even being moved to May, so it's stuck in between the Masters and the U.S. Open, it still gets overlooked. It's still, fourth tier. But it was a fantastic and entertaining ending. And that's big thumbs up to the PGA Championship. But Xander Schauffele, too, also his first major championship. That's the high. The low is what happened Friday morning at the PGA Championship. The whole Scottie Scheffler situation, the whole situation was a low. The tragic accident that led to a loss of life that, where Scheffler and a lot of others were, trying to get to the course, but they were, working at the accident scene, miscommunication between him and police. He tried to drive by. Apparently he wasn't supposed to. A police officer got dragged trying to hold on to Scottie Scheffler's car. Scheffler got arrested. That whole situation was an incredible low. Everything surrounding it was an incredible low. It's just, you don't want to see that. I mean, it was pretty impressive that Scheffler, who went to jail for a little bit, then he goes out to the course and plays as well as he did for round 2. I think everything kind of caught up to him in round 3, though. But nonetheless, it was a low. Awful all around. Just an awful situation all around. All right, let's now end this episode of the podcast here with my thoughts on the NFL schedule release here. So, again, I know it was last week and such, but from a Packers side of things here for the schedule release. Whenever the schedule comes out, there's a few things I look at, or are first things I should say. The first things I usually look at is the number of primetime games, what their schedule's like in November around hunting season, when they go to Chicago, when Minnesota comes to Green Bay, et cetera, et cetera. And Detroit, too, I guess, when Detroit comes to Green Bay. So, we already knew week 1 was Green Bay taking on Philly in Brazil. But I think what really stood out to me with this Packers schedule is their week 13, week 12 through 16? So November 24th, they take on the 49ers at Lambeau Field. Then just 4 days later on Thanksgiving night, which, by the way, that 49ers is the opening Sunday of the hunting season. Thanks, NFL. But then 4 days later on Thanksgiving night, they welcome the Dolphins. So you got 49ers and Dolphins within 4 or 5 days of each other. Two really good teams. Two teams that Matt LaFleur is very familiar with Kyle Shanahan and Mike McDaniel. But tough opponents. So at least they're in Green Bay. So Thanksgiving, but then you have another Thursday after that against the Lions. And then after that is a Sunday night football game against the Seahawks. And then after that is the Monday night football game. So their first standalone, their first primetime game is week 1, that Friday night game. But they don't have another one until Thanksgiving. But it's Thanksgiving, then another Thursday, then Sunday night, then Monday night. 4 in a row after that. There's only one Sunday night game and one Monday night game and a couple Thursdays and a Friday. That to me is like, wow, 4 standalone games in a row. Stuff could get flexed. We'll see if it still plays out that way. But when you factor in that Niners, Dolphins, Lions, that stretch right there, at least 2 out of the 3 are at home. That is a tough stretch. I'll even throw in the Seahawks there, traveling to the Seahawks. That's a tough stretch. That is a very tough stretch. I was a little surprised that Texans won is a noon game in Green Bay. I was a little surprised. And I was actually a little surprised that they had quite a few noon games to start the season, too. Another thing that stood out to me, Green Bay's only got road games back-to-back once this year. And that's when they have the Lions on a Thursday night and then the Seahawks on a Sunday night. But they get a little bit of a bye in there, too. So I think that works out well for Green Bay. Overall, I think the schedule, I'm not going to pick wins or losses because I'm not all about that in May. So much can happen in preseason. Hopefully nothing bad. Training camp and that. I'm talking injuries, knock on wood. But overall, I think it sets up nicely. The opener in Brazil, I know there's fans upset about it. I think that's a benefit for Green Bay. You're going, instead of going to Philadelphia, you're at a neutral site. that apparently is well represented by Packers fans. Then you come home, week 2 against the Colts, on the road against the Titans, Vikings, Rams, Cardinals, Packers, Texans. I mean, you get some noon games over there too, some afternoon 3:25 games. There really isn't, besides that stretch of like 49ers and Dolphins within 4 days, and then right after that is the Lions. That's a tough stretch. That is a very brutal stretch. No question about it. But overall, I think logistically, it's solid for Green Bay. A Week 10 bye, perfect. Perfect bye. You know, some of the other things that stood out to me with overall with the schedule release, again, the NFL is high on the Jets. I mean, the Jets have primetime games up their butt all over the place. I mean, odds are Rodgers probably won't have a season-ending injury again like he did last year, but never say never. They're putting a lot of their eggs in that basket. So they're all about the Jets bandwagon there. And this is a shout-out from our friend Tom from across the pond, our noted Lions fan, who noticed this too. You look at the Bears schedule, you know, you got Caleb Williams. There's a lot of excitement with Chicago. They don't play their first NFC North team until they play the Packers on November 17th. That's their first NFC North game, division game. They follow that up by playing the Vikings right after that. Then, so they play the Packers. They play the Packers and the Vikings and the Lions back to back to back. Then they got the 49ers. Then they got Vikings, Lions, Seahawks, Packers. So all their division games are like in the second half, a little past the second half of the season, which our good friend Tom noted is that a way for Caleb Williams to get a little bit more accustomed to the NFL before taking on division teams. Possibly, maybe. But I thought that was an interesting note. So, shout out to Tom if you're listening. But yeah, back to the Jets thing. I mean, they're NFL and the networks are all riding that thing. They're all riding. I honestly don't feel like, and I don't want to get into season predictions right now, but I'll just say this. For a guy who says they have to limit the drama and not have all the attention on them and kind of stop the outside noise, Aaron Rodgers is just drawing more noise and attention on this team. And I think that's going to get to this team, and I think that pressure is going to get to them. They may make the playoffs, but I ain't picking them to win a Super Bowl. Hell no. No way. Nope. I don't see it. I don't buy it. Maybe that'll change, but I don't see it. It'll be weird to see some games on Netflix for Christmas. No question about that. That's new this year, too. But, hey, the biggest part, though, on this schedule, Green Bay gets a primo preseason game. The last one, August 24th. It's a noon Saturday game against the Ravens. Preseason games, you want to take a kiddo or you just want to go to a game, have a little bit of warmer weather, relax and not have to stress about the results of the game, nothing better than a preseason game, and there's nothing better when it's a Saturday at noon. You don't got to take off work for a preseason game. You don't got to get back home late and then go back to work because of a preseason game. Saturday, noon, Lambeau Field, end of August. Come on, baby. Nothing better. Primo preseason game. All right, that is going to do it for us on this episode of the Man Cave Podcast. Again, brought to you by our good friends from Hy-Vee and Toyson Ford. Don't forget to check out the Swag Cave, brought to you by Resonance Branding Company. That link is in the podcast description. And if you got a few seconds, if you wouldn't mind, rate us, review us, give us a 5-star rating on whatever podcasting platform you're using, like Apple or Spotify, and then give us a positive review too on Apple. All right, so that way others can find the podcast. So 5-star ratings, positive reviews. Till next time, I'm Dan Casper, and I will talk to you on the next episode of the Man Cave Podcast.